The email from the Geneva Institute of Technology sat unopened in my inbox for 6 hours. I'd worked 3 years for this moment, but my finger hovered over the mouse, trembling. Not because I was nervous about the contents, I already knew I'd gotten in. My sister Sydney had accidentally opened the physical letter last week. My name is Natasha, and I've spent 27 years being the good daughter, the reliable one, the one who gets straight A's but doesn't make a fuss about it, the one who picks up her sister at 3 a.m. when she's having another crisis, the one who smiles and nods when Mum says, "You understand, don't you, sweetie? Sydney needs us right now." I clicked open the email. The words blurred together except for the important parts. Pleased to offer, prestigious fellowship, fully funded, commence in September. My hands shook as I pressed print. I needed physical proof before telling them, something they couldn't delete or hide, like they did with my science fair invitation in 10th grade. That memory still burns. I'd qualified for nationals, but Sydney had a meltdown the morning we were supposed to leave. She'd thrown my project across the room, shattering 3 months of work. Mom spent 2 hours consoling her while I picked up the pieces of my solar-powered water filtration system. "She's just sensitive," Mom had whispered, stroking Sydney's hair. "You're so strong, Natasha. You can handle disappointment better." I walked downstairs clutching the fellowship letter. Mom was cooking dinner, and Sydney sat at the kitchen island, scrolling through her phone. "Mum, I got some news." She didn't look up from the pot she was stirring. "Remember that fellowship I applied for in Switzerland?" Sydney's head snapped up. Mum turned slowly, wooden spoon dripping sauce onto the floor. "Oh, honey." Mum's voice went soft, that dangerous kind of soft. "You're not still thinking about that, are you? Especially now?" "What do you mean, especially now?" Sydney's lower lip trembled right on cue. "I was going to tell everyone at dinner, but Mark and I broke up. He's been cheating on me for months." Her voice cracked perfectly. "Oh, baby." Mum rushed to embrace her. Over Sydney's shoulder she gave me that look, the one that said, "Don't you dare make this worse." "I got in," I said anyway, my voice steady. "Full funding. They want me to start in September." Sydney's sobs grew louder. "I can't believe you're doing this to me. You know I need you here. I might... Nobody's doing anything," Mom cut in sharply. "Natasha, kitchen, now." I followed her to the pantry. She closed the door behind us, arms crossed. "You cannot seriously be considering this." "It's my dream job, Mom. The fellowship only accepts 1 person per year. Your sister is in crisis. Again, she's talking about going off her medication. Do you want a repeat of last time?" Last time, when Sydney had staged a dramatic scene at the emergency room just as I was about to leave for a summer internship in Boston. I'd cancelled everything to stay home and support her recovery. "She's 24, Mum. She needs to learn to..." "To what? Handle things alone? Like you could handle things at her age." Her laugh was bitter. "You've always been the strong one, Natasha, the responsible one. Don't let us down now." I stared at her, really looked at her, and something inside me finally snapped, but my voice came out sweet as honey. "Of course not, Mom. You're right. Let me think about it." Relief flooded her face. She squeezed my arm. "That's my girl. Now, go comfort your sister while I finish dinner." I nodded, waited until she left, then pulled out my phone. With steady fingers, I opened my locked notes app and typed, "Exit plan, day 0." In my jacket pocket, the fellowship letter crinkled. For the first time in my life, the sound of paper crushing didn't make me flinch. It made me smile. My phone buzzed at 2:17 a.m. Sydney's name flashed across the screen, along with a string of incoherent texts. "I CNT do this any mar. No one understands. Maybe should just end it all. Come get me, our Milos." I was already pulling on my shoes before reading the last message. This was Sydney's favourite script, the late-night emergency, the vague threats, the damsel in distress routine. And, like always, I was the designated rescuer. Milo's apartment was across town. He'd dated Sydney briefly last year before dating me for 6 months. Now he was apparently back in Sydney's orbit. Perfect timing, as usual. I found her sitting on his front steps, mascara streaking her face. Milo hovered awkwardly in the doorway. "I'm sorry," he mouthed to me. "She just showed up." "It's fine," I said, helping Sydney to her feet. "I've got her." "He doesn't love me," Sydney wailed, loud enough to wake the neighbours. "Nobody loves me. I stopped taking my meds because what's the point?" I buckled her into my car, ignoring the familiar script. But she grabbed my arm, nails digging in. "You can't leave me too, Tasha. Promise you won't leave." Before I could answer, my phone rang. "Mom, where are you girls? Is Sydney okay? I've been trying to reach her for hours." "We're fine, Mom. Heading home now." "Bring her to our house. She can't be alone tonight. You'll stay too, right?" It wasn't really a question. I glanced at my watch, 3 a.m, and I had a presentation at work in 6 hours. "Of course, Mom." At their house, Mum was waiting with Sydney's favourite tea and anxiety pills. "Oh, sweetie," she cooed, wrapping Sydney in a blanket. "Tell me everything." I stood in the doorway, invisible as always. "I should go. I have work." "Natasha," Mum's voice sharpened. "Your sister needs support right now. You know how hard it must be being so sensitive like Sydney. Not everyone can be as detached as you." I felt something snap inside me, not anger this time, but clarity. I watched them huddle on the couch, Sydney's tears starting fresh on cue, and suddenly saw the performance for what it was. "You're right," I said smoothly. "I'll call in sick." Later, while they slept, I slipped into Sydney's room. I needed proof of what I'd long suspected. Her journal lay carelessly on her desk. She'd never worried about privacy, always assuming no one would dare invade her space. I flipped it open and there it was. In her looping handwriting, "LOL Mom's so easy to play. One little crisis and she's wrapped around my finger and Natasha. God, she's such a robot, always rushing to help, so desperate to be the good daughter. As if anyone cares. At least she's useful when I need a ride or cash. Speaking of cash, need to transfer another $500 from her emergency account before she notices." My hands didn't shake as I took photos of the pages. I added them to a folder labelled Evidence on my encrypted drive, right next to the fellowship acceptance letter. Back home I made 3 calls, one to my bank to freeze all external access to my accounts, one to Dr. Vincent Erickson's office to arrange an anonymous therapy referral for Sydney, and one to my friend Vivian. "You're really doing it," Vivian whispered. "Breaking free." "They think they've won," I said, staring at my exit plan folder. "They think I'm staying, but in 8 weeks they'll learn what real abandonment feels like." "Be careful," Vivian warned. "Sydney's smarter than she acts. If she suspects, she won't. I'll play my part perfectly, the dutiful daughter, right until the end." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Sydney. "Thanks for last night. You're the best sister ever. Don't know what I'd do without you." I typed back, "Always here for you, Sid." Then I added her message to my evidence folder, smiled, and got ready for work. The game was on, and for once I was writing the rules. "You're getting really good at this," Vivian said, watching me cancel my gym membership with a perfectly crafted excuse about needing to support my sister's recovery. "Almost scary good," I shrugged, adding the cancellation email to my growing folder of tied-up loose ends. I learned from the best manipulators. My phone buzzed. Mom again. "Dinner at our house tonight. Sydney's making her famous lasagna." "Of course," I replied immediately. "Need me to bring anything?" "Just your loving self." Vivian raised an eyebrow. "Famous lasagna, isn't that your recipe?" "The one I taught her last year when she was trying to impress Milo. Yeah," I checked my watch. "Speaking of which, I need to stop by the passport office before dinner. They still don't suspect anything. I pulled out my phone and played a recording from yesterday's family lunch. Sydney's voice. "I'm so glad you're not taking that fellowship, Tasha. I don't know what I'd do if you abandoned me like everyone else." "Mum, don't even joke about that, Sydney. Natasha would never hurt us like that." Me, perfectly measured. "Of course not. Family comes first." Vivian whistled low. "Jesus, and they don't hear how twisted that sounds. They hear exactly what they want to hear." I grabbed my keys. "Walk with me to the passport office." Outside, the summer heat was stifling. We passed a cafe where I'd once had to cancel a first date because Sydney had accidentally overdosed on sleeping pills. The guy never called again. "Remember Jason?" I asked Vivian. "The med student. The one you really liked? That was, 3 years ago? 4? Sydney crashed her car the night of our third date. Nothing serious, just enough drama to keep me home for a month while she recovered." Vivian stopped walking. "Natasha, why didn't you ever tell me how bad it was?" Because saying it out loud meant admitting I was letting them do this to me. I pulled out my phone and showed her another folder. "But I've been keeping records. Every cancelled plan, every emergency transfer, every guilt trip. At the passport office, I submitted my renewal application with expedited processing. The clerk barely glanced at me as she processed the paperwork. Just another face, another form, another person planning a trip. If only she knew. My phone buzzed again. "Sydney, where are you? Mum's worried you're late for dinner." I checked the time, 5:45 p.m. Dinner was at 6:30. "On my way," I texted back. To Vivian, I muttered, "The surveillance starts earlier every day." "You know what scares me?" Vivian said as we walked to my car. "How good you've gotten at playing their game. Sometimes I forget which version of you I'm talking to." I thought about the folders hidden on my laptop, the secret bank accounts, the careful paper trail I was creating, the therapy appointments arranged in Sydney's name. I had to become better at their game to beat it, I said quietly. "But don't worry, the real me is still here, just waiting." At my parents' house, Sydney was already setting the table. My table settings, my recipe, my life she'd borrowed like everything else. "There you are," Mum exclaimed. "We were getting worried. Sorry, work ran late." The lie slipped out, smooth as silk. "Need help with anything?" "Actually," Sydney said, "I wanted to show you something in your old room." I followed her upstairs, my heart rate steady, even as warning bells rang in my head. My old room, now a shrine to the daughter they wanted me to remain forever. Sydney closed the door behind us. On my old desk lay the fellowship folder. "Found this while borrowing one of your sweaters," she said, her voice honey sweet with poison. "You're not really going, are you?" I met her eyes, channeling years of practiced submission into my smile. "Of course not, Sid. You know I'd never leave you." She hugged me, satisfied. Over her shoulder I glanced at the folder and thought about the real acceptance letter, safely encrypted in my files. 6 more weeks, I told myself. Just 6 more weeks of playing the good daughter. Then they'd learn what real abandonment felt like. "I'm withdrawing from the fellowship," I announced at breakfast, watching my mother's face light up like a Christmas tree. "Oh, honey!" She rushed around the table to hug me. "I knew you wouldn't abandon us. Didn't I tell you, Brian?" My father nodded from behind his newspaper, never one to get involved in emotional moments. Sydney squealed and clapped her hands. "We have to celebrate. I'll plan something special." I smiled, the same practice smile I'd worn for years. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Confirmation that my last wire transfer to my Swiss account had gone through. Later that afternoon, I sat in my car outside Dr. Erickson's office, putting the final touches on the letter I'd crafted. It was on expensive stationery, written in a flowing hand different from my own. "Dear Sydney, as someone who cares about you, I wanted to share my experience with Dr. Erickson. He helped me break free from destructive patterns and family enablement. I've made an appointment for you next month, paid in full. Please give yourself this chance. A friend. I'd already arranged everything with his office. They were expecting Sydney and the payment was non-refundable. My phone rang. Vivian. Your mother just posted on Facebook, she said without preamble. So blessed my precious Natasha chose family over career. Some things are more important than success. I laughed. Perfect. Let her build the narrative. It'll make the truth hurt more. You're kind of terrifying now, you know that? I learned from the best. I pulled out my checklist. Bank accounts locked down, passport renewed, apartment sublease arranged, therapy trap set. What am I missing? Your soul, Vivian suggested dryly. Lost that years ago. Next item. A text from Sydney interrupted us. Having dinner with Milo tonight. Need to borrow your black dress. I typed back. Of course, keys under the mat. To Vivian, I said, she's going to my apartment, right on schedule. You left the bait? Hidden in plain sight. A fake journal entry about how guilty I feel abandoning the fellowship, how I'll always put family first. And the real plans? Encrypted, locked, backed up to 3 secure clouds. I started my car. She'll find exactly what I want her to find. That evening my phone exploded with messages from Sydney. Had the best talk with Milo. He still cares about me. Maybe this is why you had to stay, to see me happy again. I forwarded the text to Vivian with a single comment. Countdown to crisis in 3, 2, how 1. Right on cue, Sydney called, sobbing. He's seeing someone else, some girl from his office. How could he do this to me? I kept my voice soothing, practiced. Want me to come over? No, I just need to know you're not going anywhere. Promise me again. I promise, Sid, I'm not going anywhere. I hung up and immediately checked my voicemail. There it was, the message I'd been waiting for. This is Clara from Dr. Erickson's office confirming an intake appointment for Sydney George on September 15th at 2 p.m. Please note our strict cancellation policy. September 15th, 2 days after my flight to Geneva. My phone buzzed again, Mom this time. Sydney just called me hysterical about Milo. Can you believe his cruelty? She needs us now more than ever. Thank God you're staying. I typed back, always here for the family. Then I opened my laptop and confirmed my hotel reservation in Zurich. The confirmation email came with a photo of the mountain view from my future room. I stared at those peaks, imagining the air up there, thin, clean, free of manipulation. Just then, another text from Sydney. Found your journal. Your words about choosing family made me cry. You're the best sister ever. I smiled at my phone, thinking of the real journal hidden in my go bag, the one documenting every lie, every manipulation, every calculated move of the past 2 months. Love you too, sis, I typed back. 4 weeks to go. The pieces were falling perfectly into place. A family dinner. I stared at my mother's elaborate invitation. She'd actually printed cards on cream-coloured stock. To celebrate my decision. Your commitment to family, Mom corrected, beaming. This Saturday, everyone's coming. By everyone, she meant the usual audience for Sydney's performances. Our parents' friends, extended family, anyone who'd reinforce the narrative of our perfect family dynamic. I'll help cook, I offered, knowing she'd refuse. No, Sydney's handling everything. She's so excited. Of course she was. Sydney in a white dress, playing the restored sister. Mum orchestrating the perfect scene. Dad hovering in the background. And me, the prodigal daughter who chose correctly. I checked my phone under the table. Message from Vivian. Hotel confirmed. Airport car service booked. Point of no return, girl. 2 weeks until the flight. 2 weeks of smiling through gritted teeth. Saturday arrived with picture-perfect weather. Mum had transformed the backyard into a Pinterest dream of fairy lights and flower arrangements. Sydney fluttered around in a flowing white dress, looking appropriately angelic. Everyone's going to be here soon. She hugged me. I've prepared a speech and everything. Can't wait. I said, hugging her back. My phone buzzed in my pocket, final confirmation from the bank that my accounts were locked down tight. Guests started arriving. Mum's friend Barbara gushed, "Such a good daughter, choosing family over career." Aunt Linda whispered, "Sydney needs you so much." Uncle Pete nodded approvingly. "Family first, always." I smiled and nodded, playing my part. The good daughter, the selfless sister, the family saint. Then Milo walked in. Sydney rushed to the door. "You came!" I caught Mom's satisfied smirk. Of course, they'd invited my ex-boyfriend to complete the performance, show everyone how I was staying to help Sydney heal, even with her dating my former flame. "Natasha," Milo said awkwardly, "I didn't know you'd be here." "At my own celebration dinner," I raised an eyebrow. "I just meant Sydney says a lot of things," I smiled sweetly. Under the table, I pressed send on a pre-written email to Dr. Erickson's office, confirming Sydney's appointment details. Mum clinked her glass. "Everyone, dinner is served." We gathered around the elaborate spread. Sydney had recreated all my signature dishes, the ones I'd taught her over years of being her personal chef during difficult times. "Before we eat," Sydney stood, smoothing her white dress, "I want to say something about my amazing sister." The guests leaned in. This was what they'd come for, the show. Natasha could have gone to Switzerland, could have abandoned us like so many others have. Sydney's voice quivered perfectly. But she chose love, chose family, and I have news too. I'm starting therapy. Gasps and applause. Mum wiped away tears. "Natasha inspired me. Her sacrifice showed me it's time to heal. Dr. Erickson comes highly recommended." I kept my face carefully neutral, even as Vivian's text lit up my phone. "Final transfer complete. You're ready," Sydney continued. "So this dinner isn't just about Natasha staying. It's about our whole family growing stronger." More applause. Mum stood to hug her. Dad actually put down his phone to smile. "Natasha," Sydney turned to me, "would you like to say something about your decision?" Every eye turned to me, the perfect moment in their perfect script. I stood slowly, reached into my bag and pulled out an envelope. "Actually, I would." Mum's face froze. She recognized the envelope, the same type as the fellowship letter. "I've prepared something too," I said softly. Sydney's smile flickered. Just slightly, just enough to show she caught the edge in my voice. I opened the envelope with steady hands, watching their faces. They expected a tearful speech about family loyalty, about staying forever. Instead, I pulled out my first-class boarding pass to Geneva. "I did make a decision," I said, laying it on the table, "and I'd love to tell you all about it." The silence was deafening. In that perfect frozen moment before the storm, I finally felt my smile reach my eyes. "What is this?" Mom's voice trembled as she stared at the boarding pass. "Natasha, what are you doing?" I pulled out a manila envelope labelled "Instructions for my absence" and placed it next to the boarding pass. Exactly what I should have done years ago. Sydney's face contorted from angelic to furious in seconds. "You promised. You said you weren't leaving. Like you promised to stop draining my emergency account." I turned to face the stunned guests. "Did she tell you all about that, or about the fake suicide threats whenever I tried to build my own life?" "Natasha, stop this right now," Mom hissed. "You're upsetting your sister." "No, Mother. For once, you're going to listen." I opened the manila envelope. First document, bank statements showing $17,000 in unauthorized transfers from my account to Sydney's over the past 2 years. Sydney jumped up, knocking over her wine glass. "You're lying." Second document, screenshots of your diary, the one where you brag about manipulating everyone. Should I read it out loud? "Brian, do something," Mom pleaded. Dad finally looked up, his face ashen. "Catherine, maybe we should—" "Don't you dare take her side," Mom shrieked. The perfect hostess mask cracked completely. I continued, my voice steady. Third document, Dr. Erickson's appointment confirmation, non-refundable, non-transferable. Sydney, he specialises in treating manipulation disorders and family enablement. You start next week. I won't go, Sydney snarled. You will, because I have frozen all your access to my accounts, and Mom and Dad's enablement fund is about to run dry too. I turned to our parents. Check your accounts. Notice anything missing. Mom grabbed her phone, face paling as she logged in. What did you do? Protected my inheritance from Grandma, the one you've been secretly using to fund Sydney's emergencies. It's locked in a trust now. Terms are in the envelope. The guests sat frozen, forks halfway to mouths, watching the perfect family facade crumble. You can't do this, Sydney whispered, tears starting. I'll hurt myself. No, you won't, because there's no audience for that performance anymore. I pulled out my phone. Every threat, every manipulation, every emergency is documented. One call to the police, and your next therapy session will be court-ordered. Milo stood up awkwardly. I should go. Stay, I said sharply. You should hear this too. Sydney's already planning how to use you against me again. Check your phone. She's probably already texted you about how cruel I am. He pulled out his phone, face reddening as he read his messages. You're heartless, Mom spat. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done to me, I corrected. The cancelled opportunities, the guilt trips, the constant sacrifice of my life to enable Sydney's chaos. I'm your sister, Sydney screamed. You're supposed to take care of me. I'm supposed to live my own life, and in 13 hours I will be. Dad finally found his voice. Catherine, she's right. We did this. We let this happen. Shut up, Brian, Mom turned to the guests. Please leave. This is a private family matter. They fled gratefully, leaving behind half-eaten meals and shattered illusions. I picked up my boarding pass. Everything you need to know is in that envelope. Bank accounts, therapy schedules, legal documents. Consider it my last act of taking care of things. If you walk out that door, Sydney threatened, you're dead to me. I laughed for the first time in years. I've been dead in this house my whole life. The only difference is now I'm choosing it. Natasha, please, Mom tried one last time. We can fix this. As a family. No, Mom, you're going to fix yourselves without me as your human shield. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Sydney, that lasagna recipe you claimed. It's in the envelope too, along with everything else you stole from me. I walked out into the warm evening air, their screams fading behind me. My phone buzzed with a text from Vivian. Cars waiting around the corner. You did it. For the first time in 27 years, I felt light enough to fly. And in 13 hours, I would. Vivian's car idled around the corner, her face illuminated by the dashboard lights. Holy shit, I heard the screaming from here. You okay? Never better. I slid into the passenger seat, hands shaking as adrenaline coursed through me. Drive. My phone exploded with notifications. Mum. You're making a terrible mistake, Sydney. I'll never forgive you for this. Dad. Please call me. Mom again. Your sister is hysterical, Sydney. If anything happens to me, it's your fault. Unknown number. This is Barbara. How could you do this to your family? I switched off my phone. They'll try to stop you at the airport, Vivian warned, taking the highway entrance. They don't know which one. My ticket from the local airport is a decoy. We're driving to Newark. Damn, you thought of everything. Had to. They're experts at... My voice caught as headlights appeared behind us. Shit! Is that... Your mum's car. Hold on. Vivian accelerated, weaving through traffic. My phone buzzed again. Dad's number this time. I answered on speaker. Natasha, your mother's driving dangerously. She's going to hurt herself. Then stop her. For once in your life, Dad. Stop her. She's your mother, and you're her husband. Handle it. I hung up. We lost Mum's car at a highway interchange. Vivian took 3 extra turns to make sure, then headed for Newark. "They'll try your apartment next," she said. "Let them. Everything important is either with me or in storage." I patted my carry-on, including evidence of every manipulation they've tried tonight. My phone buzzed with a text from Milo. "Sydney's threatening suicide. This is serious." I showed Vivian the message. "Want to bet she's already called every hospital to alert them about her unstable sister?" "What's your play?" I dialed Dr. Erickson's emergency line. He answered on the second ring. "Dr. Erickson, Natasha George. My sister Sydney is threatening self-harm as a manipulation tactic. She has an appointment with you next week, but you might want to bump it up." "I understand. We'll handle it appropriately. Safe travels, Natasha." Next, I called the local police non-emergency line. "Yes, I'd like to report concerns about my sister Sydney George. She's making suicide threats, but has a history of using these threats manipulatively. She has a therapist, Dr. Erickson." "Yes, I'll hold." Vivian raised an eyebrow, covering all bases. They need to learn their actions have real consequences now, not just emotional hostages. We reached Newark Airport 3 hours early. Vivian parked in short-term parking. "Want me to come in?" "Better not. They might figure out which airport and show up. Text me when you land." I hugged her tight. "Thank you for everything." Inside the terminal, I checked my phone one last time. "Mum, police came. How dare you?" "Sydney, they're making me talk to some crisis counsellor. I hate you." "Dad, your mother's sedated. Please reconsider." Dr. Erickson, "Sydney's safe. Appointment moved to tomorrow." I sent one final text to our family group chat. "Sydney is with professionals who won't enable her manipulation. Mum is getting the rest she needs. Dad is finally forced to handle things. My work here is done. Don't try to contact me. I'll reach out when I'm ready. Goodbye." Then I deleted the chat, turned off my phone, and headed to security. At the gate, I ran into Professor Martinez, who'd written my fellowship recommendation. "Natasha, I almost didn't recognize you. You look different." "Different how?" "You're glowing." She smiled. "Geneva won't know what hit it." I touched my cheeks, surprised to find them warm. Was this what freedom felt like? Boarding began. I found my first-class seat, a gift to myself from the money I'd recovered from Sydney's account. As the plane taxied, I imagined them back home, Sydney facing real consequences, Mom confronting her own enablement, Dad finally forced to step up. My phone was off, but I knew the messages were piling up. Threats, guilt, manipulation, promises of change. The usual weapons now hitting empty air. The plane lifted off, and for the first time in my life, I felt gravity release its hold. I was finally flying free. The Swiss Alps glowed pink in the sunset as I finished my presentation to the research board. My fellowship project was exceeding expectations, and the view from my office still took my breath away every evening. My phone buzzed, Vivian on video call. "Hey, stranger," she grinned, "ready for the update." I settled into my desk chair. Hit me. "So, your dad finally moved out, got his own apartment and everything. He's in therapy too. Different therapist than your mum and Sydney, thank God. And the dynamic duo? Your mum had a complete breakdown after you left. Dr. Erickson basically told her she had to choose between enabling Sydney and saving herself. She chose herself, finally. She's doing some intensive therapy program." I twirled a pen between my fingers. "And Sydney? That's the interesting part. After the third therapist told her the same thing, she actually started listening. She got a job, a real one, not those projects she used to talk about. She's on proper medication now. Let me guess, she's still playing victim about my departure. Actually," Vivian hesitated, "she asked for your address, wants to send you a letter." My hand stilled on the pen. "What kind of letter?" "An apology, supposedly, a real one. Dr. Erickson helped her write it." I glanced at my window, at the mountains that had become my sanctuary. Send it to you first? Already did. Want me to read it? No, I said firmly. Not today. Today was too good to risk. Fair enough. Oh, you'll love this. Remember Barbara? Your mum's friend who tried to guilt trip you? Her daughter just moved across the country for a job. Guess who supported her decision? I laughed. The irony. A knock at my door interrupted us. Marcus, my research partner, poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but we're going to be late for dinner. I nodded and turned back to Vivian. Gotta go. Dinner plans. Her eyes widened. Dinner plans with tall, dark and Swedish again. Girl, spill. Nothing to spill. We're just colleagues. Colleagues who've had dinner together 3 times this week? Marcus cleared his throat. The reservation. Coming. To Vivian I said, love you. We'll talk tomorrow. Love you too. Be happy, Natasha. You deserve it. I grabbed my coat and joined Marcus in the hallway. He smiled, that warm, uncomplicated smile that still made my stomach flip. Your friend okay with us missing your weekly call? She'll survive, especially since she's convinced we're secretly dating. He held the door open. And are we secretly dating? I stopped walking. In the golden alpine sunset, everything felt possible. I don't do secrets anymore, or complications, or drama. Good, he took my hand. Because I was thinking we could try just being happy instead. My phone buzzed again. Sydney's letter, forwarded by Vivian. I switched off the phone without reading it. You're not curious? Marcus asked. The old Natasha would have dropped everything to read that letter, would have let it ruin her evening, her week, her life. I squeezed his hand. But I'm not her anymore. We walked through Geneva's cobblestone streets, past cafes and shops closing for the evening. No crisis calls interrupting us. No guilt-tripping. No manipulation. Just peace, choice, freedom. Tell me about your presentation, Marcus said as we reached the restaurant. Did the board approve the extension? Better, they want to make my position permanent. He beamed. That's fantastic. We should celebrate. We are, I smiled, letting myself feel the joy fully. Every day I wake up here, every choice I make for myself, it's a celebration. Later that night, I stood on my balcony, watching stars appear above the mountains. My phone sat dark and silent on my desk, Sydney's unread letter waiting in my inbox. Maybe I'd read it tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe never. For the first time in my life, the choice was completely mine. I breathed in the crisp, alpine air and smiled. Some people called it running away. I called it finally learning to fly. And oh, how beautiful the view was from up here.